I'm joined now by Bruce Fein. He's a constitutional lawyer. Bruce, I grabbed just 3 headlines out there today. 3 different publications. First one, Trump Jr. delivers smoking gun. Second, ex-federal prosecutor says Trump Jr. emails provide smoking gun evidence of collusion. Third, did Trump Jr. just tweet out the smoking gun? Since the third one's a question, did he?
Well, he certainly tweaked out the smoking gun in regard to himself, because one of the unexamined underlying crimes here is lying to the FBI. We know that his initial story was this was about adoption, the Magnitsky Act, nothing at all about dirt on Hillary Clinton. And then it comes out, well, that was really the chief pièce de résistance, and now the emails confirm that. The Russian government wants to feed you information that can destroy Mr. Trump's competitor out there. So obviously both statements can't be true, namely that the conversation was limited to the adoption and Magnitsky Act, but actually it was about dirt on Hillary Clinton. The second thing to remember is that in our election laws for years, it is a crime for any candidate in a federal election to accept direct or indirect money or its equivalent to aid or support that campaign. So if the Russians, this email says, hey, the Russians are trying to either support Hillary or they want to support you by giving adverse information on Hillary Clinton, that is a foreign contribution in the terms of the Federal Election Campaign Act, and that is a crime. So here we have basically an email suggesting the Russians want to make you complicit in criminal activity, namely having accepted foreign benefit, foreign campaign contribution to defeat Hillary Clinton. And he says, great, I'm excited about it. I mean, that's dumbfounding.
You've been here in this city for 50 years. Ever seen anything like this?
Nothing like this. I mean, this exceeds anything in Watergate, you know, statements in operative 18.5 minutes gaps. And here you have the emails come out now that are about as explicit as you can imagine. And remember this, Mr. Trump says, well, I know we're doing this because we want to be transparent. Well, it seems to me the emails, to the extent that they are being forthcoming, are there to try to show that there wasn't any willful intent to lie at the first occasion when all Trump Jr. said was this was just about adoptions and the Magnitsky Act, had nothing to do with that. And then he's come forthcoming with this. Now it at least diminishes the argument you knew you were lying. And so when Mr. Trump says, oh, he's praising his son, I mean, why would his son, being so excited about the email, and he says, this is great, I love it, just forget about that when he's asked about the meeting? I mean, would you think the meeting wants to know what the fishing is like for caviar in the Caspian Sea? And this is somebody also, remember, he is familiar with how things happen in Russia, because he said he visited there maybe half a dozen occasions in business. Say, I've done some work there when I was representing Ed Snowden's father. And it's clear, when you do business in Moscow, everything is run by Mr. Putin. If you're outside the United States and have a visa as a Russian, you're an agent of Russia. I mean, that's just how the system operates there. So the fact that even at the beginning, Trump Jr. wouldn't have suspected, these guys are probably from Mr. Putin, and this is something odd and irregular here, seems to be not a credible claim to make. He's not an ingenue, in other words, when it comes to Russia.
What about all the arguments we're hearing? You know, this is a campaign. All campaigns look for dirt. This is no different than most other campaigns when you're running for elective office. The other one well, this really isn't that big a deal. He went in there. There wasn't really anything there. They didn't really talk about this. They talked about something entirely different. You also hear this argument, well, you know, he's naive. These aren't professional politicians. And then you hear Ted Cruz's, where he says, look, the rest of America doesn't really care about this. So break it all down for us.
No, but I don't think that, first of all, I don't think the rest of America doesn't care about this is an accurate statement. And remember, sure, there's opposition research. So if you're dealing with Americans who are permitted to participate in campaigns, unlike foreigners, all right, that's par for the course. But we're talking about the government of Russia, where we have a criminal prohibition on accepting or participating as a foreign government in a federal election. So this isn't just, oh, opposition research that comes from reading the New York Times or going into emails or something. This comes, and he was told in the email, this comes from the Russian government. That is a crime. So, and that's what makes it different than just, well, everybody gets opposition research. Not everybody gets it from a foreign government, and if they did, that's criminal activity.
Okay, we've got about 20 seconds. Okay. Where do we go from here? What do you expect?
Well, I think the first thing I think is going to happen is Mr. Mueller knows that there are critical members on the Russian side, like the lawyer and perhaps Mr. Goldstein. He needs to talk to them quickly. In Russia, you sometimes have a history of people disappearing if they could embarrass the government. I mean, somebody in London sort of disappeared with polonium-211 that's probably assigned to Mr. Putin. So he wants to get them before they disappear. And the second thing, he's got to see, well, were there emails of a similar sort that were received or sent by Mr. Manafort, who was in the meeting, as well as Jared Kushner, who was in the meeting? What did they react when he told this is what the incoming emails look like? But we can obviously expect that Mr. Mueller at some point is going to call Mr. Trump Jr. before a grand jury and have him try to explain all these discrepancies. But this case is not going away, and it's not a distraction for a major reason, because it relates to the integrity of our processes. Here's an effort not to go after the jugular of a fair and legal election, as well as how we even investigate crime. You just don't get to lie to the FBI. And that's what happened to Clinton as well. You don't get to lie to a federal judge. You cannot corrupt the system of rule of law and expect to continue to succeed as a country.
Nobody's above the law, as they say.
No.
Bruce Fein, thanks so
Thank you.
much.